Live Audio Wrestling.
And let's go, we're now smoking with the best.
Welcome back. It is hour 2 of the Law Live Audio Wrestling, and you heard the big man's voice, and it is time to chat with the editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer. Welcome to the show. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing really good.
Great. Let's start things off here, though, on a bit of a sad note. I mean, it's the way that we started off our week.
Yeah.
Especially here in Canada, covered by
Huge.
all of the media. And that is the fact that Bret Hart posted on his Facebook. He's been diagnosed with prostate cancer. And I mean, Dave, looking back at what Bret has gone through over the past just over a decade, the last 15 years, I mean, it's been the stroke, so many deaths in the family, the knee injuries recently, and now prostate cancer. It's such a hard go for Bret. But I'm guessing because he's been under so much medical care, they've caught this very early.
Mm-hmm.
My impression is they caught it early. Which is good because prostate cancer caught early isn't as bad as some other cancers, but it's still cancer. And I even when I tell people it's not terrible, but it's like you don't want to make like it's a walk in the park because it's absolutely not.
Have you heard any details, Dave, on how they're going to proceed? I mean, he was actually at the house show visiting in Calgary, right?
I heard that. Yeah. I don't know actually what the next step is. I believe that he's having surgery or had surgery. I'm not sure which.
It would be hard to believe that because we were just talking about it, would be hard to believe that he had surgery and then was able to go to that house show, right?
If he had surgery, I doubt he would be out.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe he's having surgery soon. I know that he was the word, and I think it was in his Facebook post that he was talking about surgery, and that's the only thing that I've really heard.
All right. Well, we'll definitely keep an ear to that, and of course, we wish Bret all the best.
Of course, yes.
Another sad note that started our week: Axl Rotten passed away. Now, this gentleman had been dealing with severe health problems recently, confined to a wheelchair. Has there been a cause of death here, Dave? Because I know he did struggle with addiction as well.
No, there's like 3 or 4 different things. They have to wait for toxicology reports to come in, so there won't be an official cause of death for 6-8 weeks or whatever.
Such a sad one, though. So young. I mean, 44 years old. And, I think we're going to start seeing some of the casualties from that extreme, ECW style there.
We really have. We really have. If you look at that roster from Mike Awesome to Candido to both, the Public Enemy, both of them, there's and a lot more. There's a lot of people from that era that, had a real tough go. The Pitbull. So, yeah, he was out of the wheelchair and he was walking he'd gotten to where he could at least walk with a cane. I do know that. But he was having a real rough go. And actually, he had a really rough time. I've heard he wasn't that bad in the last week from one of his really good friends, but they said that like in December he was in terrible shape because of the death of Hack Myers, because I guess they were very close.
Oh, wow. Well, it was interesting because Jericho had just had him on his podcast about, 5 or 6 months ago, and everything sounded really good when he was talking with Jericho, like he had kicked the habit. And
you never kick the habit.
Well, that's yeah.
I mean, that's the situation. I think he was saying basically the same thing, that you're always fighting the habit, and he had mostly gotten clean, but yeah, he definitely relapsed in December.
Right.
But I think the thought was he was over it, and I don't know if it may have had nothing to do with his death. It may have had everything to do with his death. I just don't know.
Well, we will find that out, toxicology reports and such. One more medical thing to touch on here. The reason why Bo Dallas and Bray Wyatt were not on Raw was because Blackjack Mulligan is also in poor health. Of course, the grandfather of both of those individuals. Is there any update in regards to the health of Blackjack Mulligan?
Nothing, but Bray Wyatt did go on the road this weekend. They all flew home from television on Monday. And, that sounded like a really bad sign, obviously, with both of them and Mike Rotunda as well, who's his son-in-law. But when Bray was on the road, I don't know if I don't want to say that's a good sign because but he was on the road. He is on the road. Bo Dallas was not on the road this weekend, so I don't know if he's going to be in Seattle tomorrow night or not. But Bray, I expect, will be unless maybe things get really bad in a hurry, and then he may have to go back.
Well, and Blackjack has been in. I mean, this is not a new story. I mean, Blackjack has been in ill health for quite a while now.
He's been in bad health for a long time. He had like a heart attack. There was, remember, even it felt like a couple of months ago where he was touch and go a couple of months ago. And I'm presuming that was the only, I'm presuming that was the same thing this last week, and hopefully the fact that we didn't hear anything after Tuesday is that maybe things, and again, Bray being on the road, maybe that's good news, but I don't know.
Right.
So to segue over, with Bray being on the road, we expect him at Raw tomorrow night. Brock Lesnar's booked at Raw tomorrow night. Do you foresee an interaction between these two, or is that just going to be left alone perhaps till the pay-per-view or thereafter?
I don't know. Obviously I don't know, but I think that I would think
it's a tough one.
They could do something subtle. I mean, I would think that if they're going to do something, they're not. I can't see them doing something overt until the night of the pay-per-view because it almost gives it away too much. But as far as like a subtle thing this week or a subtle thing on the go-home show, let's see, the go-home would be. I don't even know which week, but I know he's in Ontario for SmackDown, but I think he's not on Raw next week. I think he's only doing SmackDown next week, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But I expect little seeds, but probably his interaction is going to be. You always get that feeling they're going to do this three-way thing, and then because Ambrose was laid out, so maybe this week Roman or Brock will be laid out, and then the week after the other one will be laid out. That's kind of like how they do their angles a lot of the time.
Interesting. Do we have any idea what's going to happen though with this? It's just I don't know. We have all this stuff with like the Big Show this week. Was that just to fill in because Wyatt couldn't be there? Like the other family members were feuding with Show this week.
Yeah, I think that like Show and Kane and Ryback are probably doing something with the other family members in some form, whether it's a TV program or whether that'll be a 6-man on the pay-per-view. I don't know.
Right.
But, I don't think that. And again, Bray could be involved as well. Maybe it's Bray will beat one of them to kind of keep Bray strong because they're definitely pushing Bray and Braun Strowman right now pretty hard. Mm-hmm. Either the whole Wyatt family or Bray himself. It looks like that they'll have an involvement in that three-way as far as the main event on the pay-per-view.
Tomorrow night, Raw in Seattle. Daniel Bryan is apparently going to be there, coming fresh off his Tide commercial tonight. Have you seen the Tide commercial, Dave?
I saw the Tide commercial.
Small but mighty.
I just saw the Tide commercial like 20 minutes ago.
So small but mighty Daniel Bryan. I'm sure AJ's furious because that's his gimmick now from what I learned this week.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
Daniel Bryan on Raw tomorrow night. Any word, any hint in regards to what he may be doing? Every time he seems to show up, something gets disrupted.
Yeah.
People are going to hate Roman Reigns even more if you put this man on television.
Well,
it's a reminder of what the wrestling fan is missing by putting him on television. I really question doing this, no matter what the role is.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, maybe it's something that they have to do. I don't know.
It seems strange at this particular point. It seems like such a non-entity kind of place to put him rather than, say, save it till after Mania or something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they just thought Seattle's the place.
Okay, let me ask a different question here. Is there a possibility that he's returning?
Returning to wrestle?
Yes.
I guess there is, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's like the last I had heard. I shouldn't even say that, but the last that he had been told, and this is before the Royal Rumble. Now, what I can say is he's been through more tests since then, but I don't know exactly what happened in those tests. But before the Royal Rumble and his last set of tests, I do know that it was pretty much like, I don't want to say 100%, but it was like 95% that he wasn't coming back. He wanted to come back at that point in time. I mean, that I think he made that clear. But they didn't, Joseph Maroon wasn't going to clear him, Dr. Maroon. Now, again, he did have tests done since then, and that could change the game in some way. So,
maybe this could be the beginning. Maybe they've finally decided, and they're setting something up so he debuts at Mania or something, or comes back at Mania, or they add something like that.
It's hard for me to believe that but it's like I said, it's that's up to Dr. Maroon, and he was pretty adamant about not clearing him.
But
Vince was pretty adamant, but he didn't say 100%. I think Vince was like, well, maybe, but the maybe was a very small maybe.
I mean, but the thing is that they have that huge stadium to fill for Mania, and it's certainly an attraction that would interest people is the return of Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, I don't think they would clear him I don't think they would clear him to wrestle to just for a Mania match or anything like that. I just don't see that. I think that, of course, could he perform in some form? Absolutely. I mean, without doubt, could he be like a special referee or something on that show?
He would.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think the crowd would like that.
No, I
think
think
that would be a tough. It's a real tough situation.
Yeah.
But like if he's cleared, he's going to be cleared to wrestle. Period. It's not going to be like, well, he's going to do one match. It's like he's either never going to wrestle again or he's going to be back wrestling again. It's not. It's not like, well, he's going to do a retirement match or he'll just do Mania and he'll work an Undertaker schedule. That's not happening. He's either going to wrestle or he's not, and that decision's probably, I would venture to say that decision has been made already, and maybe tomorrow has something to do with that. Maybe not. I don't know.
If Daniel Bryan is on that card, even in a non-wrestling capacity, he steals the spotlight, I feel, and would just make fans remember what they're not getting. I think it's very dangerous.
It's really tricky, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, especially if that's the idea tomorrow is to introduce him in some sort of role, a non-wrestling role. I just don't think fans are going to take to that at all.
Maybe he's just there to hang out with Brie, guys. We don't know. Anyhow, let's continue on. Someone else's status of Finn Balor is up in the air at the moment. It was an injury sustained while coming off the top rope and double foot stomp in a match with Samoa Joe. What is the status on Finn, Dave? Have you heard anything?
The original diagnosis from I guess it was Friday night is a sprained ankle, and they didn't think it was that bad. So he was out on the last night's show in Indianapolis. He was out, and I don't know if you heard, but he was doing the big ring entrance thing, and he was raising his arm, and he lost his balance and fell down, which was not part of the show, which probably wasn't. I mean, I doubt it hurt the ankle, but he did fall down. But they were going to examine him again at the Performance Center on Monday and see, how long it would be. There was no definite word on how long it would be, but it wasn't. They didn't think it was a break. But a sprain can be a 2-week thing, and a sprain can be a 2-month thing. So there's really no way of knowing yet.
But either or, we're pretty much safe. Actually, the funny thing is NXT is taped.
That's right.
So you're going to have Finn on there, and he can do nothing for 2 months and still be ready to go for that show before WrestleMania.
Yeah, I don't. The way it was expressed to me, nobody was that nervous about the WrestleMania thing. The match with the match with Joe at the WrestleMania show. But if he has to take 6 weeks off or whatever it is, the fact is you're right. They got everything taped for television, and if he's just missing house shows, I mean, that's not really that bad of a deal right now. It's he can survive that, and they're going to do fine at those shows anyway.
And one more question, Dave: will we ever have a healthy League of Nations?
Yeah, really.
Because it seems like one guy gets better, or one guy can come and then another guy disappears. I haven't seen all 4 of them together, I think, in weeks.
Yeah, well, Barrett can't do any contact, or at least he wasn't able to as of last week. Del Rio returned on Tuesday, so his thing was only out for about 9 days, and Sheamus hasn't been around at all. But his thing wasn't. The impression was that he may still be back on TV pretty soon, even though he may not be wrestling so soon. Which is the same situation as Barrett, maybe.
Yeah.
For a week there, the only one that was healthy was Rusev, and he'd gotten hurt, a couple weeks earlier too.
The League of Injuries.
All right, so let's get away from WWE. Just we got to do this quickly, Dave. But I wanted to touch on this. AAA has been a lot of developments there with Ray and Conan. Ray debuted on Lucha Underground this week. We know that's all taped. Conan no longer booking AAA, and Ray is apparently not going back there. What's going on with AAA?
It's with Ray, it's a money issue.
Okay.
With Conan, everything that I can gather is that there's been, they've decided. One of the issues that's there is the peso, and this is actually the same thing that happened in like '95. Because if you guys from '92 to '94, AAA was like awesome, And they had, like, that's when they had Eddie Guerrero and Art Barr and people like that, and they would bring in Americans like Jake. And, what happened was then in one brief period at the end of 94, the peso went down to 10% of what it was. And because of that, all of a sudden, the cost of bringing in Americans just went way down. Plus, the other thing was the Mexicans, and this is what ended up happening, is they could all go to WCW. And even if they made $60,000 a year, $60,000 in U.S. money was so much in Mexico that it was more than they could make working a full schedule in Mexico. So you had all those guys sign with WCW, and they hated it, but they were making more money than they could have made in Mexico. And now we had a peso drop, so the cost of bringing in the foreigners like the Johnny Mundo, Brian Cage, those kind of guys, is way, way up. So they're not bringing those guys in. I think Conan was very negative on that. Ray being another one, obviously. So when Ray and Conan are super tight. So, but yeah, they are decided to go with using their native stars, and they pretty much they were doing the booking. The Roldans were doing the booking themselves for a lot of the time, and Conan was pretty much working as an agent. And it was the fuse was getting short, and I think that with Ray, the problems with Ray made it worse because. Conan probably had a hand in getting Ray to leave WWE for AAA with the idea that he was going to be like the big star, and he would, the whole thing. A year ago, AAA looked like they were just going to go through the roof. They were going to have Ray Alberto, Mysticis, and Perro as the big four.
Now they have none.
And they were going to just explode, and then Lucha Underground would have them and everything. And it just everything went haywire. And I think this is all part of that falling out. Was like they It didn't happen.
All right. We have to get out of here quick, Dave. We just wanted to get that story in. We look